If people could take their seats, I think that would be helpful. We're really getting ready to officially start our program today. Just so we're not distracted, not that people stand. Good morning to everyone and welcome to this special event. And we will soon be speaking with two American astronauts direct from the International Space Station. Through satellite communications, NASA astronauts Scott Kelly and Kjell Lindgren will join us by video link and spend the next 20 minutes with us. For over 15 years, NASA astronauts have lived and worked on board the International Space Station, perhaps the greatest engineering achievement in human history. The space station is in orbit 240 miles above the Earth and is traveling at 17,500 miles per hour, about 5 times faster than the highest velocity bullet. It is roughly the size of a football field and weighs almost 1 million pounds. It has more livable space than a 6-bedroom house, along with science laboratories that allow astronauts to live and work there. The 6 astronauts currently on board include 2 Americans, 3 Russians, and 1 from Japan. NASA astronauts Scott Kelly and Kjell Lindgren will speak to us today from Destiny Lab, where they are conducting scientific experiments using the unique zero-gravity conditions in space. Aboard the Space Station Laboratory, we can develop new materials and medicines that make their way into the commercial products used here on Earth. Some examples of this research are on display this morning around the hearing room. The technology spinoffs from America's space program have significantly impacted our economy and improved our way of life, from the microchips in our computers to lightweight metal alloys used in our cars to touchpad screens on our iPads. More importantly, the space station is a place to test new technologies that could assist future astronauts, for example, when they venture to Mars. NASA astronaut Scott Kelly and Russian cosmonaut Mikhail Kornienko are currently on a 1-year mission on board the International Space Station. A veteran of 3 space flights before his current mission, Scott Kelly holds the record for the most time any American has spent in space. As of today, he has been in space a total of 430 days. We also will be speaking with Dr. Kjell Lindgren on board the International Space Station. He is a medical doctor who joined NASA in June 2009, and he is on his first space mission. Astronauts serve as role models who inspire students to study science, math, and engineering. They also appeal to all generations and entice us to seek answers to timeless questions about life, our existence, and the meaning of it all. To that end, I am told that NanoRocks, one of our exhibitors this morning, is announcing a new educational initiative today in conjunction with this event. Dream Up will be a new company dedicated solely to educational space research that leverages NanoRocks' expertise in providing hands-on experience for students in getting their experiments into space. We also greatly thank NASA and the Johnson Space Center for helping us set up the downlink today, and also the Center for the Advancement of Science and Space from Florida's Space Coast for showcasing their work here, too. I now recognize the ranking member, Eddie Bernice Johnson from Texas, for her opening statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and good morning to all. I look forward to this morning's downlink and the chance to hear from our NASA astronauts about life aboard the International Space Station and the challenges and opportunities they face. As you know, last month we celebrated the 15th anniversary of continuously occupying the International Space Station. I want to again congratulate NASA and its partners on this significant accomplishment. The space station is playing a critical role in advancing scientific research, preparing for future human spaceflight initiatives, and inspiring the next generation. I wish more of our young people could see the wonderful exhibits in this room. I have no doubt that they would be inspired to develop their own science projects that might one day fly on the station. Mr. Chairman, realizing our dreams to send humans beyond low Earth orbit and eventually to Mars and back will depend greatly on the research we conduct on the space station. As you just said, Commander Scott Kelly is spending a year living and working aboard the International Space Station to help scientists better understand how the human body reacts and adapts to the harsh environment of space. This is but one example of the ways in which the International Space Station provides a unique environment for research. Yet, as we heard at the hearing a space subcommittee held a few months ago on an operational challenges facing the space station, keeping the station a productive orbiting facility is not easy. The recent cargo resupply mission failures are stark reminders of the risk and challenges that NASA and its partners face in operating and maintaining the station. That is why we must never lose sight of why we are making our national investment in the space station in the first place. We need to ensure that for however long we're able to operate it, we can do so in a way that maximizes its productivity and its contribution to cutting-edge research. The astronauts we will hear from in a few minutes are on the front lines of that endeavor, and I look forward to hearing from them. And I thank you and yield back.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. A couple of ground rules here, or suggestions. Each side is going to have a total of 10 minutes, so we will be keeping track of that. And I'd like to encourage members to limit their questions, if possible, to 30 seconds so that we'll be able to squeeze in as many questions as possible. Typically, the astronauts will use up a minute or two in their responses. Also, a little bit of a reminder, it takes several seconds for our questions to get to the space station and for their answers to get back to us, so that when you get ready to ask a question, push the button in front of you that makes your mic go live, but wait a couple of seconds before you start your question, and then when you finish, push off the button so the astronauts don't get any feedback. So things are a little bit in slow motion. It takes 2 or 3 seconds for the sound to be transmitted to the station and to receive it back. That's about it. Without wanting to embarrass anybody, just so everybody knows what I know, my eyes are going to be on the gentleman to my right in the corner with the blue sweater vest. He is going to give us a 5-minute warning and a 1-minute warning. And so as soon as we get the signal, we're not yet to 5 minutes, but we are going live with the downlink, we believe, at exactly 10:15, and we'll be live from 10:15 to 10:35. So we've got 5 minutes or 6 minutes now. I hesitate to have open mics, but if anybody has anything they must share, now would be the time to do so. Okay, this is the quietest members of Congress have been in a long time. Yes, the gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Barr.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to announce that in the audience today are members, students from St. Thomas More Cathedral School in my district here in Northern Virginia. And they're here because they spent the last couple of years developing their own CubeSat, which will be on a future mission to the space station.
Oh, excellent.
It will be deployed in low Earth orbit with 2 cameras and radio, and schools around the world will be able to download the data, the photos, from these students' projects. So
excellent.
They were just in a science fair. They were the only elementary school in the science fair.
Why don't we ask them to raise their hands?
Yeah, if they, yes, you can stand up and wave.
Okay.
So we have future astronauts and astrophysicists and engineers.
Excellent, excellent, excellent.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good use of our time. Any other announcements? The gentleman from California, Mr. Paulo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I represent Livermore, California, which has 2 national laboratories. We believe the most amount of physicists in the country. Despite that, they still elected me to Congress. But in my district, I asked our students to pose some questions for the astronauts. We won't be able to ask all of them, but we had over 100 responses on social media from elementary schools across the district. And so I just wanted to thank my constituents for
I did the same.
Great participation.
I did the same thing. In fact, I'll be mentioning it in a minute. And it's pretty tough selecting one question from the 100 you get, but it's nice to have that kind of response from back home as well, for both of us, I think. Any other comments over here?
Mr. Chairman,
Who's
Yeah,
the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Foster.
Yeah, we did the same in the Illinois 11th District, and the good folks at NASA saw fit to retweet our announcement from their main ISS website. As a result, we were inundated with requests for questions from all over the world, in places like Madagascar and you name it. And unfortunately, we're having to restrict the questions that I'll be asking only to those students in the Illinois 11th District.
I totally, totally understand. But again, nice to see the interest regardless. We should have gotten a 5-minute warning, not yet? We did get a 5-minute warning, okay. Maybe give us a 3 and a 1, just so we won't get caught off guard here.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, the gentleman from Colorado.
Thank you. I'd just like to acknowledge gentleman Dr. Z from University of Colorado, who is here today. He has one of the displays over there, and as you guys all know, I love to brag about my state, and I'm going to get to ask a question of Dr. Lindgren, who went to the Air Force Academy, Colorado State University, and the University of Colorado. So we're very well represented here today.
Excellent. Okay, good to know. Where is he again? If he is there. Okay, great. 3 degrees from the University of Colorado?
Well, Dr. Lindgren has 3 degrees from different institutions in Colorado. Dr. Z is got his PhD at the University of Colorado, has experiments on the laboratory.
Okay, good, good. I need a list of members. Okay. 3-minute warning. Okay, we've had a 3-minute warning. Gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Bridenstine.
I'll be real quick since we're now bragging about our states. Like everybody to know that the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, from whence I hail, built all 11 truss structures on the International Space Station. And we built the devices that maneuver the solar arrays on the International Space Station. So this is exciting for us from Tulsa.
Great.
As long as they're bragging about our commonwealths, I'd like to point out that Dr. Lindgren, who's will be talking to us in a minute, went to the governor's school in Virginia when I was lieutenant governor, and I think I spoke at his high school graduation.
And yeah. Are you going to remind him of that, or?
Mr. Chairman, I have something to share.
Yes, the gentlewoman from Maryland, Miss Edwards.
I saw The Martian over the holiday week.
By the way, both of our astronauts have watched The Martian in the space station.
Mr. Chairman, from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, just want to acknowledge I had students in Malden, Massachusetts that competed in a national robotics competition that took place on the space station and came in #1 in the country. Just want to acknowledge them.
Gentleman from Texas, Mr. Babin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the congressman representing the Johnson Space Center,
Don't want to pass that up.
if Oklahoma's going to brag, Texas has got to brag. Well,
Okay, we are less than a minute away.
okay,
so
I just wanted to say that I had the privilege of meeting with Captain Kjell just a few weeks before he launched on this mission, and all Houston is watching, and just want to say a good congratulations to him, and appreciate NASA's all their hard work in this thing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're about there.
Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
We are ready for the event.
House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. This is Mission Control, Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Science, Space, and Technology Committee Chairman Lamar Smith. How do you read me?
We read you loud and clear, sir, and welcome aboard your space station.
Captain Kelly and Dr. Lindgren, thank you very, very much for spending 20 minutes with us today. We have a number of members of Congress right here eager to ask you questions, and we're going to keep our questions short to try to get as many in as possible, and I'll start off. I had a number of questions submitted by schools and students back home in my congressional district in Texas. I selected one from the Winston School in San Antonio, and that question, just to be directed to both of you, is what should students study if they want to work for NASA or become an astronaut?
Well, sir, NASA is a pretty large organization, and there's there's all different fields that our employees have backgrounds in. But I think with specifically you're talking about like engineering and science, and as an astronaut you have to have a background in those kind of fields, some type of technical degree. There's a lot of confusion. A lot of times people think, most of the astronauts come from the military, and that's not true. We have, probably an equal mix in our office of civilian and military personnel. But I think one thing they have in common is really, good performance in their chosen technical field, and then a really diverse, varied background of the other things that they do that's not part of their professional life. And what I tell kids is, they should pick something that they like and something they're interested in, because they're better or more likely to do well at it.
And I would, sir, I'd just add to what Scott said, that when I talk to kids that want to pursue a career in space flight, and specifically to get to come up here and explore with us, that they need to really focus on the science and math and those sorts of things, because that is the language of space flight, and
Okay.
and they need to be fluent.
Thank you very much. The ranking member is recognized.
Thank you very much. Dr. Lindgren, as a former nurse, I'm thrilled to see a former emergency medicine practitioner above the station. And is NASA leveraging your expertise in medicine and physiology to reduce the risk for long-term spatial travel? And Commander Kelly, thank you as well for being there.
Thank you for that question, ma'am, and thank you for your service as a nurse. I think that NASA, when we were selected, we definitely take individuals from a variety of career fields, and so I feel very fortunate to represent the biomedical and healthcare professions in the astronaut office. And I think that we certainly, I certainly utilize my background in terms of teamwork and good communication, being able to work under difficult conditions. All of that training has benefited me up here. Speaking specifically to the biomedical research and identifying areas and experiments where we can help folks on the ground. We have a whole suite of experiments up here, 240 experiments during the time that I'm here, and I think Scott will have seen 400 different research projects during his year up here. And many of those are biomedical in nature, looking at bone loss, muscle wasting, immune system dysfunction. And we have a project that was up here that Scott got to work on with mice, a rodent research. Us identify areas where we can bring results from up here to benefit folks back on the ground.
Thank you. The gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Hultgren.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you both for your service. We are so grateful. Captain Kelly, Dr. Lindgren, great to have you with us in our committee today. I talked to my local expert, my 11-year-old son, Cole, to ask him a question he would want to ask you. One question was, if you know what continent you're over right now, or how fast you circumvent the globe, and then also what experiment or project you're most excited about that you're working on right now.
So right now we're over the southern part of South America, and we're heading across the Atlantic, and soon to be over southern Africa, and then up into Europe. and it takes us at 17,500 miles an hour. It takes us 90 minutes to go around the Earth one time, so we're going pretty fast. And as far as projects that I'm excited about, we do so much on board here. Between like the spacewalks that Kjell and I just did to robotics activities, we have a visiting vehicle coming on Sunday, should launch tomorrow, the Orbital Sciences cargo vehicle. We're excited about that. And then all the research that we do, and the research is in all kinds of different the categories, whether it's research that's focused on future exploration, or research that is focused on improving life on Earth. And both of those are in all different kinds of disciplines, whether it's medical stuff or for instance, the life support system here and how we replenish the environment of oxygen, scrub it of carbon dioxide, create water from our urine, use that water to produce oxygen, is something that's very important for exploration. And for me, all that stuff is exciting in different ways. But I think, the one thing that excites me the most for this particular flight is the idea of being up here for a year and expanding the envelope about, how people can live and work in space for longer periods of time, because that's what it's going to take, understanding that better for us to travel further from our planet and hopefully one day go to Mars.
The gentlewoman from Maryland, Ms. Edwards.
Thank you, Commander Kelly, Dr. Lindgren. Really appreciate your service and your being here with us today. Commander Kelly, I understand that you have tried the outrageous romaine lettuce, and I wonder if you could tell us about the challenges of growing and developing a food supply and what that tells you about the things that we need to know if we're thinking about long-term extended stay and visits to Mars.
That's a tough question you ask. I mean, I'm not, I don't quite understand the logistics train of going to Mars and at what point it's more efficient to grow your own food. Exactly the point where it's more efficient to grow your own food with the resources you need to do that versus maybe pre-positioning food there. But, with the food we had on board here, it besides the nutrition and the freshness of it, there are other things that it does provide. I mean, we live in an environment here now that is just pretty much devoid of life except for us. So, there's the nutritional aspect of it, but also there's the psychological aspect about having something else, green up here that's living, that we can take care of, that we can see grow, and that we can, utilize later as food. Right now we're growing flowers, actually, and, obviously we're not going to eat those, but, it's to demonstrate our ability to grow something else and also to see, what effect that may have on us from a psychological standpoint. One of the things I really miss up here, besides, human contact and my friends and family on Earth, which is pretty much the number one thing I miss, is the ability to be outside and to experience nature. And I think having a ability to grow, whether it's something you're going to eat or something you're going to look at or something that's going to help replenish our atmosphere that we require for life, is something that's very important. And I think it does have a definite place in the future and our journey to Mars.
The gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Bridenstine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our astronauts. I wanted to ask a question. There's a growing concern among members on this committee about the orbital debris problem that's in low Earth orbit. And I wanted to ask a question about some of the precautionary measures. I know that they're remote and the probability is low, but can you share with us what your precautionary measures are and also how often they occur and if it impacts your ability to do your work on the space station?
Yes, sir. So that's a pretty complicated problem. And, when you see the graphics, you see all the stuff that's flying around the Earth, the space junk. And, you know, Kjell and I just recently went outside, and you could see all the little dings on the outside of the space station. They're all over the place from stuff that's hit the station. Now, fortunately, you know, most of that stuff is small and hasn't done any significant damage, but there is damage done, and there's obviously the chance of more significant damage. There's shielding on many parts of the space station outside that will prevent, you know, some kind of catastrophic impact from small things and things in orbit. Stuff that's you know, coming from, you know, deep space is going much faster and presents even a larger problem. But there's really nothing we can do about that. Occasionally, we have to move the space station. We've probably done it since I've been up here, maybe, I don't know, maybe 5 times. You know, the U.S. Air Force can track a lot of stuff, but some stuff they can't see. Some stuff we see very late. And we had a case where, you know, I had to close all, I don't know, maybe 20 hatches on the U.S. side of the space station, and we had to go down to the Russian Soyuz. You know, the time of closest approach to pass because we didn't have time to move the space station. So there is, you know, there are things we can do to mitigate the risk. With shielding, with moving the space station, with sheltering in place, should we not have the time to do that. But I think, you know, space is very important. You know, technology today relies on it, and I think we really need to protect the environment that our satellites fly in, and you know, by not creating any more debris and, you know, potentially looking at ways to reduce the debris that currently exists, because that is such a critical capability for our nation and for the world.
The gentleman from Virginia, Mr. Byer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Commander and Doctor, thank you so much for your heroic service, for stretching our imagination and all of our science. We have a complicated relationship with Russia right now, difficult geopolitical situation. How is it going with your Russian colleagues? And do you share all of your data with them, and are they reciprocating with us?
Yeah, so, you know, Russia's really been a great partner for us on the space station, and that's one of the things that is great about this program. You know, besides the research value and the, you know, the exploration capability it provides, you know, the international partnership and the, you know, providing a place and and goals and, you know, a program for us to work on jointly with other nations has been really one of the, you know, the shining points of this space station, you know, relationship that we've had. As far as the cosmonauts and them specifically, you know, we rely on each other for our lives, and, you know, we have to count on one another, whether it's, you know, them counting on us, us counting on them, our other international partners. So, you know, any difficulties that are and conflict that our countries experience is something that, you know, although we recognize that that stuff goes on and occasionally we talk about it, it doesn't affect our relationship up here, because, you know, we're all professionals. We understand the reality of, you know, having to rely on one another. You know, I'll be up here with, you know, when these guys leave here next week, I'll be up here with 2 cosmonauts for, you know, 5 days. I was up here as the only, with 2 Russian guys for 6 weeks in the summer, and if there was something that was to happen to me, any kind of medical emergency, those guys would be my doctor. I mean, I have to really count on them for my life, and you know, vice versa. So, you know, we have a great relationship, and I think the international aspect of this program has really been one of the highlights of it.
The gentleman from Johnson Space Center, Mr. Babin.
This is Dr. Brian Babbitt, and you and I met, Scott, just a few weeks before you launched. We had a great visit at Johnson Space Center. I got to talk with Dr. Jeff Davis, who was doing some of the experiments and the comparisons between you and your brother Mark. And I am a dentist, and I still have a great interest in my profession, and I wanted to find out. I know your partner. I just wanted to thank him too as well, Dr. Lindgren. Lindgren, I appreciate your service. I wanted to ask you, both of you, what your oral health situation is, and also your general health from your long-term exposure to weightlessness and zero gravity. And have you had any situations where you've had a problem there, and do you have any long-term concerns about that? And again, thank you so very, very much.
Well, thank you for the question, sir. You know, the philosophy of our medical care system is really one of prevention and identifying the healthiest people possible to select into the astronaut office to make most desirable to get the affected crew member evaluable of health. Good preventive practice for a long duration mission as well.
I regret we only have time for one more question, quick question, and that goes to the gentleman from Colorado, Mr. Perlmutter.
Thank you, and gentlemen, thank you for your service to the nation and to the future. And my question is, and I'm very happy, Dr. Lindgren, you've got so many degrees from institutions in Colorado. My question, we heard in a panel a couple weeks ago that the planets line up in 2033. That's the best time to get our astronauts to Mars. Do you guys think that's feasible?
Well, I think, I personally think it's feasible. You know, there's still things we need to learn, but I think we've learned a lot from this space station and our experience in space. And I think, you know, the long pole in the tent, so to speak, for going to Mars is the you know, the support of, you know, the nation, the support of our representatives in government, and of course the money. I mean, it's expensive, and we have, you know, different priorities. But I think it's a trip that is, you know, is worth the investment. I think there are, you know, there are things tangible and intangible we get from investing in space flight, and I think Mars is a, you know, a great goal for us, and I definitely think it's achievable.
Captain Kelly and Dr. Lindgren, we're out of time, but we appreciate the 20 minutes you have spent with us today. We certainly wish you well and look forward to your safe return to Earth. Thank you all again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, and we really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all. And we also wanted to wish Congresswoman Johnson a happy birthday.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Smith and committee members. Station, we're now resuming operational comm.
That was actually an early birthday present. The actual birthday, I'm just told, is tomorrow, but close enough for government work. So, in any case, I want to thank all the members for joining us here today. Feel free to take a look at the exhibits. Again, we want to thank NASA and Johnson Space Center for making this downlink possible, and we stand adjourned.